Hi, welcome to this step-by-step data analytics tutorial in Tableau. In this tutorial, we will be analyzing sales of various types of insurance. The data set we are going to use for this activity is based on real-life data from a national insurance company. All data has been anonymized to preserve privacy. The main data set contains sales data for 2017. For this tutorial video, we are using a small 24 record dataset. For the actual activity, you will be using the full dataset, so the answers will be different, but the process will be similar. The insurance types or data in the tutorial may be different than the full dataset, but the fields are all the same. You will be using the Excel file provided to create views to display the data. Step-by-step instructions using the tutorial dataset follow for each of the requirements for the assignment. You will be starting in Excel to clean the data, and then you will open the file in Tableau. This assignment will give you a broad overview of the functions in Tableau. There are many videos at tableau.com to assist you in preparation for this assignment if you need additional help, but this video should get you started. The first requirement is to find and correct errors in the region and insurance type fields. The easiest way to find and correct errors in the dataset will be to use Excel rather than opening in Tableau. Start by opening the Excel workbook in Excel. Click on any cell in the data in the main worksheet. On the Insert ribbon in Excel, across the top window, click on the Pivot Table. Accept the defaults to insert the pivot table in the workbook. Next, we will populate the pivot table. In the Pivot Table Fields panel, drag Region down to the Rows box and Sales down to the Values box. You now have a pivot table. Examine the list of regions to find any errors. Here we see that one of the regions is misspelled. Remember that this is a small tutorial dataset. In the real dataset, there may be multiple different errors. Now we want to correct the original dataset for the spelling error. Click on the main tab to go to the original data. In the Home ribbon, click on Find and select. Type the incorrect term in the Find What box and the correct spelling in the Replace With box. Click on Replace All. Now we need to refresh the pivot table data to reflect the corrections. Go back to the Requirement 1 worksheet, right-click within the pivot table data, and select Refresh. You can see that the incorrect region term is no longer present in the dataset. By the way, if the Pivot Table Fields panel ever disappears, you can bring it back by clicking anywhere in the pivot table you created. Now repeat the process for the Insurance Type field. Drag Region back up to the main box and drag Insurance Type down to the Rows box. Review the list of insurance types to find the errors. Correct those errors by following the process we just used to correct the errors in Region. Once the errors are corrected and the pivot table is refreshed, we can see that the incorrect insurance types are no longer present in the dataset. Save this workbook and close Excel. I would suggest saving the corrected file under a different file name than the original dataset so you do not get confused and incorrectly import uncorrected data file to Tableau. The rest of this project is in Tableau, so start by opening Tableau. Click on Microsoft Excel and navigate to the corrected file that you just saved in Requirement 1. Notice there are several types of data files that Tableau can open. Since on the file that you saved in Requirement 1, then click Open. Since there are two worksheets in the data file, drag the main sheet into the data window. If there was only one sheet, it would automatically load into the data window. For the second requirement, we need to analyze insurance sales by state. First, we will create a sheet that will show which states have the highest and lowest sales by total dollar amount. Begin by renaming Sheet 1 by right-clicking the sheet name and renaming this sheet as Requirement 2AB. Remember, Requirement 1 was to clean the data in Excel first before you brought the data into Tableau, so you will not have a Requirement 1 sheet in Tableau. Drag State from the Dimensions pane into the Row field. Then, drag Sales from the Measures to the ABC column in the view. Click on the sorting icon in the toolbar, sorting the sales data in descending order from highest to lowest. Right-click on the Sum Sales in the Mark pane. Click on Format in the drop-down menu. In the Format pane, click on the numbers and then select Currency in Standard Format. To close to the Format pane, click on the X in the top right corner. We now have completed Requirements 2AB, but let's graph the results. By making a graph of the information presented, the data will be easier to interpret. Drag Sum of Sales to the Column field. It will leave the Marks panel. To add dollar amounts to the bar graph, click on the T icon in the toolbar. We now have created a graph of the information that was shown in the table, completing Requirement 2A and B. Next, we need to analyze insurance sales by state. Add a sheet and then right-click the sheet name to rename it as Requirement 2C. Drag State from the Dimensions pane into the Rows field. Drag Sales to the ABC column in the view. Right-click Sum Sales in the Marks pane, then click on Measure in the drop-down menu, and then click on Average. Sort the average sales from highest to lowest using the icon in the toolbar. Right-click on Average Sales under the Marks panel and select Format. Select Numbers in the Format pane, then select Currency Standard. Close the Format pane. Now, let's go one step further and make a graph of this information to make it a bit easier to interpret the results. Click and drag Average Sales to the Column field. It will leave the Marks panel. Add the dollar amounts on the graph by clicking on the T icon in the toolbar. Now we have completed bar graph showing the average sales in each state sorted in descending order. Next, we need to analyze a count of how many insurance policies were sold per state. Add a sheet and rename the new sheet Requirement 2D. Drag State under the Dimensions pane to the Rows field. Drag Sales to the ABC column in the view. Right-click on the Sum Sales in the Marks panel, then click on Measure, then click on Count. Sort the count of sales from highest to lowest. Right-click on Count Sales under the Marks panel and select Format from the drop-down menu. Select Automatic as the format for the numbers. Close the Format pane. Now, let's again make a graph of this information. Click and drag Count Sales to the Columns field. It will leave the Marks panel. Add amounts to the graph by clicking on the T icon located in the toolbar. Requirement 2D is now complete with a bar graph that shows the count, or number of policies, sold in each state. Requirement 2E asks if any states do not meet the minimum sales level of $800,000. To answer this question, you can review the information you prepared in Requirement 2AB. In the tutorial, none of the states meet the requirement because you are only using 24 lines of data. When you complete the project, you will see that only a few states do not meet the minimum requirement. Next, we will be analyzing insurance sales by region. Insert a new sheet and rename it Requirement 3. Click and drag region from the Dimensions pane into the Rows field. Click and drag Sales to the ABC column in the view. Click on the icon in the toolbar to sort the data in descending order. Change number type to currency. Right-click Sum of Sales, click on the Format, and select Currency Standard. Close the pane. We can now see a table of each region's total sales sorted in descending order. Again, let's go one step further and make a graph to better visualize the information. Click and drag Sum Sales to the Columns field. It will leave the Marks panel. Add the sales dollar amounts to the bar graph by clicking the T icon on the toolbar. Now we can see the total insurance sales for each region. The next requirement has us analyze insurance sales by salesperson within each region. Insert a new sheet and rename it to Requirement 4. Drag region from the Dimensions pane into the Rows field. Also drag salesperson into the Rows field. Be sure to drag these in the order listed. Then drag sales from the Measures pane into the ABC column in the view. We need to sort the data, but because we have two fields, both region and salesperson, we have to sort each field separately. First, click on the drop-down arrow next to Region and select Sort. Sort in descending order and then click on Field and Sales Sum. Then, click the arrow next to Salesperson and select Sort and select Descending. Also select Sort by Field and select Sum of Sales. Notice each column now has a descending sort function above each column. Change number type to currency, right-click Sum Sales, click on Format, and select Currency Standard. We can now see the leading salesperson in each region. And now prepare a graph of this information. Click and drag Sum Sales to the Column field. It will leave the Marks panel. Add dollar amounts next to each salesperson. Before continuing, close the Format pane. Now, let's try something fun. Drag region from the Dimensions pane into the color box on the Marks panel. The changes each region's color on the bar graph, which makes the graph more visually appealing and easier to read. For Requirement 5, we will be analyzing insurance sales by type of policy and by region. Insert a new sheet and rename it Requirement 5. Drag the region and insurance type in that order from the Dimensions pane into the Rows field. Drag Sales from the Measures pane into the ABC column in the view, which will add the dollar values to the table. The sort is both alphabetical in both columns for both region and insurance type. Hover over region and sort in descending order by sales sums as shown here. Sort for insurance type is also currently alphabetical. Hover over an insurance type and sort by descending order, and the field is Sales Sum. Right-click on the Sum Sales in the Marks panel, select Format, and choose Currency Standard. Close the Format pane. This table shows you the completed table for Requirement 5. Now let's graph the requirement. Drag region and insurance type up to the columns field from the rows field. Drag sum sales to the row field. It will leave the marks panel. Add dollar amounts to the graph. Drag insurance type to the color box on the marks panel. To widen the graph, hover your mouse over the right margin of the graph and drag it to the right. Now we can see the sales by insurance type and region. In the last requirement, we will create a map chart that shows total sales for each state. Insert a new sheet and rename it Requirement 6. Drag state from the Dimensions pane into the View area. Notice that the longitude and latitude automatically populate after dragging state into the view. Drag sales from the Measures pane to the color box on the Marks panel. If you want, you can change the default colors. To do this, click on the color box and select Edit Colors. Select a new pattern and click OK. The following map chart shows you total sales by each state. You have completed Requirement 6. That's it. We have reached the end of this tutorial. This video was created and narrated by Dr. Jennifer Canis. Have a great day!